Welcome into Fire Mountain Gems and Beads. I'm Patty. I'm a jewelry designer here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this beautiful peridot and gold-filled bracelet. This is a very simple project that you're going to learn right now. Not too many tools and just a few beautiful supplies. This is great for all of you August babies and those of you giving gifts to August babies. As well as those of you that just love this beautiful summery earth tone. Make sure and sign up for our email newsletter. The description box below contains a link for that. So let's go ahead and look at what is in this piece. So we're going to start with some 49 strand Accu-Flex in 0.014 width in a Dijon gold color, which matches beautifully with this. The 0.014 is important here because we have these really tiny Peridot Heishi beads. Often gemstone beads have very small holes, which is true of these. And the 0.014 is perfect for this particular stone bead. So we have our Peridot beads in Heishis and rounds. And we have gold-filled findings, clasps, Accu-Guards, crimp covers, crimps, these really pretty little saucer rondelles, as well as some jump rings. That's all there is to it. So let's get started making this project. I'm going to go ahead and set the bracelet aside right over here so we can see the pattern while we're working. If you don't have a bracelet to start with and you want to make your own pattern, draw that out on a piece of paper first. That way you have something to work from. Okay. So first we're going to start by taking about 10 inches of this Accu-Flex off the roll. I like 10 inches for a standard bracelet, so you have a little bit at the beginning and the end to work with to go through your Accu-Guard. So you don't want to cut it too short. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and finish one end. We're going to go ahead and put on one of the little crimp beads. Put it down there so you can see. Tiny little crimp bead. And that is going to go on the end of the Accu-Flex. And I'm going to stop it with my fingers here because now I'm going to put on an Accu-Guard. Now the Accu-Guard is a little horseshoe-shaped bead, as you can see here. It's got a hole on either end here, and it comes around in a horseshoe. So you go up through one hole, around the horseshoe, back through the other hole, and that is your wire protector, an Accu-Guard. It guards your Accu-Flex from fraying or wearing over time. It's a really nice way to finish your piece. So that'll go right through one side, up and around, and through the other side. Another way to do this is with your chain nose pliers, but I can usually get it this way. Okay. And then your tail goes back through your crimp bead. All right. And then you just pull that crimp bead kind of snug up against your Accu-Guard. And then at this point, I like to take my crimping tool, and I like to use the outside channel here to kind of gently close up my Accu-Guard so the tips of the horseshoe are touching. Then I will take the inside channel here meant for crimping, and I'm going to crimp that crimp bead, but before I do, I'm going to pull it up real tight against the Accu-Guard so all of the slack is taken up, and then I'm going to back off a millimeter to leave room for my crimp cover later. We'll crimp that really nice and tight. I use a lot of pressure there. We'll flip it sideways, and we'll use the outside channel here to close that up. And then I use the very tip of the crimping plier as a little insurance to really tighten that crimp down really well. And whenever you crimp something, test it. A really good way to test it, because it's really small, is to take your round nose pliers, put it in the horseshoe there in the loop, and then pull really tight on the other end. And that's a really nice tight crimp. If it comes apart, just crimp it again. All right, now, if I was using a larger bead, I would leave this tail for a little insurance, but these Heishis are so small, they can't really get through the little hishi with the extra tail. So I'm going to snip that off right at the crimp. Okay, so there we are. Now we're going to start our pattern. Oh, you know what? We're going to put the crimp cover on first. That makes more sense. So let's grab the crimp cover. What I like to do, you can put it on the working surface and pick it up with your crimper, but I like it a little closer to my face so I can see it better. So I'll use the outside channel of my crimping tool to pick that up from this webbing between my fingers. It's a great way to do that. It gives you a little control. It won't roll away. Just like that. And I'll just adjust it a little bit. Make sure that the outside channel is facing out here. And I will put that on my crimp. Right like that. And then kind of go around a little circle and massage that all the way closed. Okay, that's really nice. So we've got our end finished. Now I'm going to go ahead and start threading on my pattern of beads. So I started after the crimp cover with 5 of the hishi rondelles here. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick up a few of those and put them in my hand here. This is kind of an easy way to do it too. And just start threading them on. So you start with any of them. They're all kind of different sizes and thicknesses, which gives it a really great natural look. There's 2. Let's see, this one is really, really off. I don't think I'm going to use that one. That'll happen once in a while. I'll use that in a different project. Let's get a few more of these. We had 2 on, so we're at 3. And the Accu-Flex is stiff enough to use it kind of like a needle, so you can just pick them up out of your hand. I love that. Number 4. And number 5. Okay, so we've got our pattern of hishis on. The next thing I put on was one of the little saucer rondelles. And then I had one of the little round beads and another saucer rondelle. So let's go ahead and thread those on. So we'll go saucer. These are hollow, so it takes just a little extra second to get that on there. And the round. And the saucer. Okay. There's the first part of the pattern all done. Then we're just going to go around and continue that 5 hishis, saucer, round, saucer. 5 hishis, saucer, round, saucer. And I have already threaded almost a whole bracelet. So let's move to that one since we're just doing a repetitive pattern. And here we are with that. So we only have one little section left to thread. So let's go ahead and thread on the last section of the hishi beads. Let's get 5 of those. 3, 4, 5. That looks good. Go ahead and thread those on. Let's see here. There's 1, 2. These are so pretty. I love this translucent green color. 3, and they're really gently faceted on the edges. So pretty. 4, and last one, 5. I'm just going to double check. Yep, that looks really good. And we finished that off with the crimp cover. So that's the last bead that goes on the bracelet. So now we're going to finish the other end of the bracelet. And I'll grab a crimp bead, a crimp cover, and another Accu-Guard to do that. So we start with our crimp bead, get that on your Accu-Flex, let that fall to the bottom, and then grab your little horseshoe, your Accu-Guard, thread that through one side, through the other side, and let that pull that all the way down, and then you're going to thread your tail back through your crimp bead. Now at this point, I'm going to close up my Accu-Guard with the outer channel of my crimping plier here. And I'm going to put it pretty tight. Now, if this was a bigger bead, I would be threading my Accu-Flex through the beads here. But since it's such a small bead and it won't go through, I just let it come out the side. Then I'm going to grab my crimping plier and I'm going to position my crimp bead in that channel, making sure that my Accu-Guard is not inside the crimp pliers. I'm going to pull all the slack, and then I'm going to back it off a little bit. We need a little space on both sides of that crimp bead for the crimp cover in just a minute. The other thing you will always want to do before you crimp is kind of curl up your project, because you want enough space for it to curve around. If you did it straight, really tight, it might not want to curve very well, and you want your bracelet to curve around your wrist. Okay, so now I'm going to back this off just a little bit. All I do is push that Accu-Guard against the plier flat and then crimp it nice and tight. And then I'm going to come sideways and I'm going to close up that crimp with the outside channel here. And then use the very tip to squish it good for insurance. Closing up that Accu-Guard here. It got a little sometimes the Accu-Guards will go a little sideways, so I can take my chain nose plier and flatten that back out. Now that your crimp is all nice and tight, go ahead and take your flush cutter and cut the tail off right at the crimp bead. Now all we need to do is add the crimp cover. So let's grab a crimp cover, and I'm going to position that again right here in the webbing of my fingers, or you can put it on the table, however is more comfortable. Grab it with the outside channel of the crimping tool, and then I like to hold the Accu-Guard like this and just let the crimp fall into the crimp cover this way. Sometimes it takes a little finesse. Got to make sure, okay, it's nicely around my crimp bead. And then I'll use the outside channel of my crimping plier to shut that. And I'll just kind of go around in a little circle to make sure it's nicely closed. Okay. Now that the body of the bracelet is strung, we're going to add the clasp with a series of jump rings. You can see in the bracelet here how the clasp is held on one end with one jump ring, and there are a series of jump rings on the other side that make it adjustable. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll grab one jump ring in our bent chain nose pliers, open up that jump ring, add the lobster claw to the jump ring, and then add that to one of the Accu-Guards. Close that up nice and tight. And the other side, we're going to put these little succession of jump rings. We have 4 here. You can make it as long as you want to. And if you don't want it to be adjustable, just use one jump ring. I'm going to show you how to do it this way. So we're going to grab one jump ring, and we're going to open that up, add it to the opposite Accu-Guard here, and then also add on a second jump ring. This is the way to do it, so you have to open the least amount of jump rings. Then you're going to get another jump ring, and you're going to open that up, add it to the first jump ring, and then we're just going to put on one more. And then close that up nice and tight. Okay. Then all that's left to do is clasp your bracelet where you want it on the adjustable chain. And there you have your beautiful peridot and gold-filled strung bracelet. I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you go forward and make a bracelet like this, make sure and post pictures. We'd love to see your own creativity. For the materials list for this piece, look in the description box below, and you'll see the link to that. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you love the video. And make sure and sign up for our email newsletter. The description box below also contains a link for that. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you next time.